I've also got one for refractions, one for specular.
Sorry, I couldn't hear what you said.
Sorry, I'm not talking to you, bro. Hi guys, Ross here. Welcome back to another video. I hope you're all having an amazing day wherever you are in the world. Today, we're going to be talking about AOVs in Cinema 4D and Redshift. This has been a highly requested tutorial, and AOVs essentially allow you to get the most out of your renders. So hopefully it'll be a really useful and helpful video. If it is, you already know what to do. Hit that like button, leave a comment in the comment section down below to let me know how much you enjoyed the video. It really does warm my heart and lets me sleep peacefully at night. So without further ado, enough of me waffling, and let's jump straight into the video. So this was a project that I worked on recently. It was for a flavored tea company that's starting up. I also made this lovely animation which Instagram decided to compress the hell out of, but nonetheless I was really happy with the final outcome. And part of the success of this project was using custom AOVs and AOVs in Cinema 4D and Redshift. So let's just dive into it. I should probably explain to you what the hell they are. If you never have heard about them before, you're probably wondering what the hell are these magical AOVs that I'm talking about. Let me visualize these for you. So for example, reflections. I've set this reflections AOV up, which means that I'm going to get this pass when I export from Cinema 4D, which is literally just the reflections of the render, so of the bottle in this case. I've also got one for refractions, one for specular.
Sorry, I couldn't hear what you said.
Sorry, I'm not talking to you, bro. And then I've got one for the label foil, which is a custom AOV. So we're going to dive more into that later. So AOVs stand for arbitrary output variables. I know that because I literally just read it up on the Redshift documentation. This basically means that it's different pixel information that Redshift can produce, and therefore we're able to create all these different passes. So this is really powerful for being able to essentially pull out different areas of your render and boost them in post-production. So how do we set these up? Now, luckily it's really easy to do in Redshift. All you have to do is go to Redshift AOV Manager, and here you have a whole list of the available AOVs. You can already see that I've set some up here as well. So you got a whole list of them, a bunch of them in here, and I'm going to go over some of the key ones that I use. I think the most important one is probably PuzzleMattes. Now, if I go to PuzzleMattes, you're not going to see anything. And that's because I should probably say that there is a disclaimer with some AOVs. You need to make sure you're in bucket rendering mode, which is this icon here. So if I just enable that, give it a minute to render, because it's gonna render it in the full resolution or whatever your settings are in Redshift, which in my case is the final render settings. But you can see as it starts to render, we're now getting this puzzle mat, which essentially is different masks for different object IDs, which I have created, which means that I can then create masks in post-production to essentially kind of solo out different areas of the render. So this is really powerful, as you can imagine, to isolate different areas, and I'll show you guys how to set this up. This is probably one of the more complicated ones to set up, and to be honest, probably the only one that requires a little bit of manual work to do, apart from custom AOVs. So let me just exit out of that, turn off bucket rendering for the sake of the speed of the machine, and let's just go back to beauty. So all you have to do to set this up is go to an object that you want to create a mask for. So for example, this lid here, make sure you add a Redshift object tag, and you want to come over to the object ID tag, override it, and just assign it a object ID. So really straightforward. So in my case, I wanted a mask for the label, the bottle, and the lid. So I added one to the lid, I added one to the label, and I added one to the bottle. Now you can see that I've used a different number for each, 1, 3, and 2. Don't know why they're in that order, but yeah, so 1 to 3. And that's because the puzzle mat in the AOVs goes from 1 to 3, or you can go any number, so I could make this 10 if I wanted to, but there's 3 of these, so usually I should go 1, 2, 3. Red, green, blue. And by default, when you drag a puzzle mat in, I should probably do it from scratch, that would be better. It's going to be set to material ID. That's obviously not what you want because we're working with objects. So just make sure you change that to object ID, and then dial in the relevant numbers in correspondence to the numbers you've set in your object tag. So for example, I've just dragged in this new one. If I set it to 2 on the red ID, that is our label. So now if I come under our render view, we should see this new puzzle mat. So we have puzzle mat 1. I'm going to have to enable bucket rendering for this to preview, just like I mentioned. Give it a minute to render, and now you can see that we have this red label mask coming up for our puzzle mat. So really straightforward, and you can stack multiple of these on top of each other. So if you do have more than 3 objects that you want to create masks for, you can stack as many of these puzzle mats as you would like. So you can go wild with it. But just keep in mind that you can only set 3 per puzzle mat. So just be wary of that, and make sure that all your numbers line up. Okay, cool. So that's it for puzzle mats. In terms of the rest of them, reflections, refractions, and what you have it, they are all very, very simple. All you do is just drag them over from the left-hand side into your little box here. So for example, I could get a reflections filter, and I probably wouldn't really need this. It doesn't actually really do much. But yeah, you just literally drag it in from the left-hand side into here, and Bob's your uncle, job done. The only other one that requires some manual work is custom AOVs. Now these are worth it. They're really, really powerful. So for example, I've created a mask for the logo on the packaging, which I then used to adjust the levels and the color of in post-production. And this saved me a whole load of time because it meant that I didn't have to render out a different render for every single variant. I was able to just kind of create a mask and then make the relevant adjustments in post-production. So let's show you guys how to set this up. So let's just go back to the beauty render and let's open up the material I made for this label. It's a little bit messy, but don't worry, we're not going to even worry about that for now. All we want to worry about is this node here, store color to AOV. Essentially what this is going to do is take a alpha mask you've made, or any texture for that, and use that to create a mask. So for example, I have this logo mask here, which if I just play this, we can preview it. This has basically been used for this material blender here, so that I could basically create it to be really high gloss. And we're going to use this texture to create the mask. So all we have to do is press Shift-C, type in store color to AOV. And what you want to do first is get the final material, which in this case is the material blender. This would normally go into the surface, but this time we actually want to plug this into the beauty input of our new node. Now when we output this to the surface, we have our normal material as usual. The beauty of this now is that we can actually grab our texture that we want to make the mask from, drag and drop this on here, and we're going to go for AOV input 0. Now when we click on this store color to AOV node, we're going to have this AOV 0 tab here. Now if we click this, at the moment we're seeing the AOVs I've already set up, but if I press add new custom AOV, I can type in logo, for example, hit OK, and now under our render view, we should have logo, and this is our mask. It's also going to appear in your Redshift AOV manager here. You have the option to denoise it if you want to, but there really is no need since it's just a black and white mask. And job done, you now have that custom AOV. So you can do this for up to 7 different AOVs, I believe. Yep, so AOV input 7, I guess 8 if you include 0. So yeah, 8 different custom AOVs you could make, but I suppose you could create different renders and create as many as you like. And this is really powerful because essentially you've created a bunch of different masks which you can then push and pull and make adjustments to on really specific things. So for example, I had that logo one, but I also had one for the text of the label. If I just connect the other one back up, that should preview. There we go. And the reason for this was because that sometimes Cinema 4D will just process the colors differently, especially when you start to add lighting in there. And I wanted the ability to be able to adjust that text and make sure I get it back to kind of the original color that it is, to make sure that it's true to the real world product. So that is AOVs. I'm pretty sure that's kind of everything to it. Obviously, this is a product render, so I really only needed like specular refractions, reflections. That's all I really needed in this case, but there's a bunch of other ones in here that you could use for other renders. If I'm doing a landscape render, I'll use a depth pass and use that to essentially kind of create fog in the distance, but maybe I'll save that for another video. So hopefully this video was helpful. It's a bit of a shorter one today. Hopefully I kind of explained everything well for you guys. If I did, let me know in the comment section down below, or if you have any questions, also let me know in the comment section down below. I'm more than happy to answer any queries you may have. So thanks again for watching, guys. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to watch my videos. I really appreciate all the support I've been getting recently. It's really, really motivating, and yeah, it really makes me happy and makes me motivated to keep making these videos. So thanks again for watching. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment. You know the drill. And until next time, enjoy the rest of your day. Peace.